Welcome back, gaming friends! If you've ever wondered whether those classic video games from the 90s still hold up, after more than 2 decades, you're in for a treat. Today, we're diving into 20 old-school games that remain awesome even 25 years later. If you enjoy this ride down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to support the channel. It really helps us bring more fun content your way. So grab your keyboard or controller, sit back, and let's rewind the clock. Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger feels like pure magic even now. Time travel, multiple endings, vibrant pixel art, and a cast of characters you actually remember. The game blends science fiction and medieval fantasy in a way that still feels fresh and imaginative today. Its battle system was smooth and dynamic, letting characters join attacks for bonkers special moves. Some might find the pixel graphics dated compared to modern high-definition visual, but honestly, that visual style gives it charm and warmth, like an old sweater you still love wearing. The music is legendary, the storytelling tight, and the way choices affect future or past always gives you a sense of wonder. Chrono Trigger remains one of those rare games where you forget the console and just get lost in adventure. Command and Conquer. Red Alert. Red Alert brought real-time strategy to everyday gamers in a big way, pitting humans against allied nations in a Cold War gone wild. The game's interface and controls were straightforward enough to pick up quickly, yet deep enough to plan sneaky flanks or overwhelming assaults. The Soviet tanks roaring over the map, the airstrikes, and base building added tension and excitement each match. Sure, by today's standards, the graphics blocky and map small can feel cramped, but that simplicity also made it super accessible. No steep learning curve, just fun. Multiplayer skirmishes with friends back then felt epic, and that spirit still works today. Despite its age, Red Alert combines strategy and chaos in a satisfying package that stands the test of time. Diablo. When you boot up Diablo, you dive into gothic dungeons full of demons, loot, and dark secrets. And somehow, that vibe never gets old. The randomized levels meant no two runs felt exactly alike, keeping the replay value high even after years. That simple click-to-move, click-to-attack mechanic felt satisfying and addictive. Some critics say the graphics are rudimentary compared with modern 3D worlds. I say, that's part of the appeal. You use your imagination to fill in scarier shadows, creepier corners, the atmosphere, the sound effects, the tension walking down each corridor as a barely armored rogue. It still gives butterfly. Diablo reminds us games don't need fancy visuals to deliver deep immersion. Good design and mood go a long way. Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 took a giant leap by bringing Mario into full 3D. Jumping, flipping, exploring those vibrant open worlds felt like discovering video games all over again. Whether you were chasing stars inside castles, sliding down icy slope, or racing penguins, every level offered a fresh surprise. Sure, by today's standards, some controls feel floaty, and the camera can be goofy at weird angles. Sometimes, Mario would bounce off walls in ways that made you wince. Still, most of the time, everything clicked perfect, and the feeling of free exploration was unmatched for its time. It gave players genuine freedom to roam, hop, and discover, and that sense of playful discovery remains fun even now. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the Night mixed gothic horror, platforming, and exploration with RPG elements that felt deep and rewarding. Exploring Dracula's castle, finding secret rooms, leveling up, and transforming into a bat or wolf. This was richly atmospheric and full of surprises. The soundtrack felt hauntingly beautiful, setting the mood just right. Some might say pacing could get slow in parts, or certain enemies overly punishing. On the other hand, those challenges made when you finally beat tricky areas, it felt like accomplishment. The art and music create a full castle vibe that few modern indie horror platformers match even now. For anyone who loves moody environments, hidden secrets, and slow burn satisfaction, this remains a classic. Goldeneye 007 brought James Bond-style gunfights to living rooms, and it rocked. Playing Secret Agent on N64, sneaking through corridors, triggering alarms, or going full brute force, that excitement still hits. Multiplayer split-screen matches were chaos in the best way. Friends laughing, shouting, backstabbing, pure nostalgic fun. Some complaints: the graphics are coarse now, aiming sometimes feels clunky, and frame rate could drop when the screen got crowded. But there's a charm in that old-school blockiness and unpredictable chaos that modern shooters emulating realism don't match. Goldeneye remains proof that gameplay and atmosphere can outshine fancy graphics. It's a party shooter that still brings smiles decades on. Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII gave players a huge emotional story on a grand scale, with doom-laden prophecy, corporate greed, loyalty, loss, and heroism. Cloud, Aerith, Sephiroth, those names still echo among gamers old and new. The turn-based combat felt strategic and deep, especially with materia customizing your magic and abilities. Some writing and characters feel dated compared to modern storytelling standards. Others may find the polygon characters goofy-looking now, yet the core story remains powerful and the soundtrack iconic. That mixture of adventure, heartbreak, and hope created a big emotional impact. For many, this game shaped their love for RPGs forever, and it still does that today. Fallout. Fallout dropped players into a bleak post-nuclear world, but let you shape your own journey. Characters, choices, consequences. You could be a hero or a jerk, and the world reacted accordingly. The isometric view and turn-based combat made things tactical. Sure, the graphics are primitive now. Character portraits static, map clunky, combat feels slow sometimes, and yes, that UI, yikes. But those limitations demanded imagination. The writing was sharp, sometimes bleakly funny, with moral dilemmas that felt real. Surviving mutant attacks, radiation zones, and weird cults made every decision weighty. Fallout still offers a raw and gritty taste of role-playing freedom that many newer games rarely reach. Starcraft set the gold standard for real-time strategy. 3 distinct races, unique abilities, tight balance, and deep strategy. Protoss warpins, Zerg rushes, Terran mech armies. The variety kept players hooked. Multiplayer ladder matches were intense, competitive, and legendary. Some players moaned about dated sound effects and blocky graphics compared to modern RTS or MOBA game. The pathfinding could be awkward. Units sometimes got stuck on terrain or moved slowly, but the core design still delivers brilliant gameplay, and strategies remain deep and fascinating. Starcraft reminds us that tight mechanics and smart design matter much more than flashy vision. It still deserves respect as a masterclass in real-time strategy. Half-Life introduced a narrative-driven shooter where you felt like part of an ongoing story, rather than a series of disconnected missions. The physics puzzles, alien enemies, corridors shifting beneath you, all climbed tension beautifully. The weapons had weight, the environments felt real, and the pacing built dread nicely. Some horror sections may feel cheesy now, or enemy AI predictable compared to modern standards. The graphics also look blocky and dated, especially character faces. Still, walking through Black Mesa, shotgun in hand, hearing eerie groans, that atmosphere holds up. Half-Life showed that first-person shooters could tell immersive stories, not just offer spray-and-pray gameplay. That legacy lives on in many of today's story-heavy shooters. Metal Gear Solid brought cinematic storytelling, stealth gameplay, and wild plot twists to console gaming. Sneaking through corridors, hiding under desks or in lockers, avoiding guards. It felt like being in a spy movie. The voice acting and FMV cutscenes were cheeky, suspenseful, and weird in a fun way. Critics might point out that some controls are clunky now, and aiming feels imprecise. The camera angles sometimes work against you, but those flaws become part of the experience, providing tension and forcing you to plan. The blend of stealth, action, and storytelling created something memorable. Metal Gear Solid helped define stealth action games, and players still enjoy its ambition and style today. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 2 terrified players and thrilled them at the same time. Zombies, tight corridors, limited ammo, and nerve-wracking monster surprises. The atmospheric sound design and moody, dimly lit corridors built tension expert. Some modern gamers may find the fixed camera angles and tank controls frustrating now. Movement feels stiff, turning slower than you might expect. That can lead to cheap deaths and weird zombie chases. Yet those limitations also made moments of success deeply satisfying. Escaping a narrow hallway while ammo ran out felt like an achievement. Resident Evil 2 still remains a benchmark for survival horror, balancing fear, storytelling, and resource management in a way few newer titles manage nearly as well. Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate introduced many players to deep party-based RPGs full of choices, friendships, betrayals, and lore. Managing a group of adventurers, selecting spells, grinding through caves and dialogue, this felt epic and immersive. The branching story and moral decisions made each playthrough feel unique. Some elements feel dated, conversations are long, graphics rough, and loading between areas slow compared with today's standards. Combat isn't fast-paced and friendly. It takes time and strategy. Still, for fans of storytelling, character development, and role-playing complexity, Baldur's Gate remains a landmark. Its blend of narrative and gameplay laid the foundation for many of today's RPGs. That kind of depth never goes out of style. Thief, the Dark Project. Thief emphasized stealth over combat, making shadows and silence your friends, not bullets. Sneaking through mansions, avoiding guards, picking locks, and pulling off heists felt thrilling and unique. The emphasis on sound, footsteps, creaking wood, guards talking added tension and realism. Some people might complain about dated visuals, stiff animations, or sometimes unpredictable guard AI. The story feels bare bones compared to modern narrative-heavy games. Still, the experience of sneaking past patrolling guards in darkness remains intense and satisfying. Thief proved that stealth could be a main attraction, not just a side mechanic. Even now, it inspires many modern games that value subtlety over spectacle. Age of Empires 2, The Age of Kings. Age of Empires 2 offered epic historical strategy, building civilizations, forging armies, harvesting resources, and battling enemies across medieval landscape. You could send knights charging, archers volleying, and trebuchets pounding castles, all while managing villagers gathering wood or food. The balancing between economy management and warfare felt tight and rewarding. Some players may note the graphics look dated and animations jerky compared to modern RTS titles. The pace could feel slow, especially managing economy before combat, but that pacing also allowed for strategic depth and planning. Age of Empires 2 remains a go-to for fans of long matches, empire building, and strategy. It showed that history-themed RTS can be both entertaining and strategic, and decades later, it still holds strong. System Shock 2. System Shock 2 blended first-person action, horror, and role-playing elements into a sci-fi nightmare you could get lost in for hours. Exploring a derelict space station overrun by mutants and rogue AI created a sense of dread and isolation that still works today. The combination of resource management, upgrades, and unpredictable enemies created tension and strategy. Some criticize its graphics now. Character models, lighting, and environments feel primitive. The interface can be clunky and reading logs slow, but that rawness enhances the horror and immersion. Every corner, every flicker of light, every strange sound feels dangerous and uncertain. System Shock 2 remains a masterclass in mood and atmosphere that modern horror shooters rarely match. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater introduced skateboarding to video games in a way that felt free and exciting, grinding rails, doing kickflips, and chaining combos while punk music blasted. The levels were cool and playful, sometimes absurd, but always fun. Even if the skateboarding looks unrealistic today, the sensation of landing a long combo, hearing the board grind, and unlocking new moves was pure joy. Some players might say, camera angles awkward, controls a bit floaty, or graphics blocky now. But those quirks contribute to nostalgic charm. The simple act of grinding a rail felt satisfying. For anyone who loves skate culture or arcade-style gameplay, Tony Hawk still delivers a rush decades later. Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Gathered favorite Nintendo characters into chaotic brawls full of laughter, friendly trash talk, and unpredictable knockouts. Whether you knocked a buddy off the stage or soared out yourself, every match had surprises. The controls were simple enough for newcomers, but skilled players could pull off crazy combos. Sure, the visuals are dated and stages limited by today's standards. Some items felt overpowered or random, yet those early imperfections made matches hilarious and fun. The chaotic charm, the shouting over split screen, the clashing of cartoonish attacks, that energy still resonates with players now. Super Smash Bros. Created a party game legacy that many newer fighters build on. Silent Hill. Silent Hill brought psychological horror, foggy streets, eerie ambiance, and deeper scares than simple jump scares. Walking through deserted town streets, hearing distant whispers, seeing shadows shift, it made players uneasy in the best way. The soundtrack and darkness played mind games with you. Some might argue the graphics are crude, textures blurry, and monster designs now look cheesy or dated. The controls feel stiff sometimes, and plot delivery can be cryptic, but that ambiguity adds to mysterious horror and leaves you unsettled long after turning off the console. Silent Hill delivered atmosphere over action and proved horror could be subtle, creepy, and haunting. That kind of tension rarely loses its power. Planescape. Torment. Planescape. Torment offered one of the deepest stories ever crafted. Philosophical questions, twisted identities, moral dilemmas, and weird cosmology that drew players into serious thinking. The game rewarded reading, exploration, and choices, sometimes dialogue-heavy and slow-paced. Combat didn't grab you like action game, and visuals feel dated compared with modern standards. For some, that might mean it's slow or boring at times, yet the writing, the characters, the existential question, those elements made it unforgettable. It showed that games can be thoughtful, strange, and deeply emotional experiences. For anyone who values story and reflection, Planescape, Torment remains a gem even now. Marvelous verdict. Looking back over these games feels like sitting around a campfire swapping stories of heroic deeds, epic battles, freaky monsters, and wild strategy nights with friends. Each of these games help shape what video games are today, teaching developers how to tell stories, build worlds, and make players care. So, thanks for sticking around this long. If you like this list and want more adventures down Pixel Memory Lane, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next video. And we'll see you next time.